Welcome, everybody, to the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for Indiana Basketball Weekly, Mike Goodpaster. And right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, whose new book could have been the last minute and 20 seconds of the game, and we could just call it "Oops." Kent
Yeah,
Sterling, how you doing, Kent?
I'm disappointed but hopeful. How's that, Mike?
Yeah, I get that. I mean, Maryland's a really good basketball team. Indiana got completely outplayed in the first half. They fought back. They dominated most of the second half. But as we spoke offline, you can't blow a 7-point lead in the last minute and 20 seconds or so.
No, you can't. And to me, it's all about what could have been. And I know we should celebrate a lot of the good that happened. Jerome Hunter was terrific. Devontae Green played better than we've seen in a while. But boy, oh boy, you just can't. You open yourself to so many bad things when you miss front ends 1-on-1 like Rob Finney did, or when you throw a lob pass like Devontae Green did that caroms out of bounds or goes uncaught. You just can't in a game where everything else is equal. It's taking good care of the basketball and converting opportunities from the foul line that really carry you to the finish line. Indiana was so close. Trace Jackson Davis with a shot at the end that he's going to make 99 times out of 100, and it doesn't fall, and they could have gotten it done. They didn't. Maybe they learned from this, and they come back a better team.
Yeah, and when I look at it, Trace Jackson Davis had a wide open look. He missed a shot. That'll happen. My big takeaway here today, and you've brought this guy up a lot, how he has to do something for this team to be successful. Jerome Hunter played really well.
Yeah, I thought he was good on both ends. He got lost defensively a little bit, but knocking down the threes that he did and being really kind of that, I haven't seen him play this much. Like, he played a lot today, and I thought it was terrific. Because of Race Thompson being out, you kind of had a different look from the bench, and that's sort of the way it goes. But seeing Jerome Hunter come off the bench and play 27 minutes like that's just awesome to me, coming off the injury that he had, hitting 3 of 6 from beyond the arc. The 4 rebounds were huge, just 1 turnover. Indiana with 6 turnovers as a team. You look at this thing statistically, whether it's the 22 assists or the percentages that they shot, the number of turnovers that they committed, and you just can't believe that they lost this thing.
Yeah, but when you look at all those numbers for Maryland, you can see how this game was a toss-up at the end, though, because Maryland only 5 turnovers. Maryland did miss 7 free throws, where Indiana only missed 3. I think the thing that really struck me was, I don't know if it was a lack of defense in the first half or Maryland just got on one of those rolls where they're hitting everything, but I think it was a little bit of both.
It was a little bit of both. Indiana didn't close out as quickly as they should have. They really hedged hard on those screens, on those ball screens. And then when Maryland kicked it to the court, Maryland's a terrible shooting team. Yeah, they are one step ahead of Indiana in the Big Ten in 3-point shooting. So thinking, okay, as long as we stop the ball, they're not going to be able to bury us under an avalanche of threes, because that's not the DNA of this Maryland team. It made sense going in, but man, oh man. Like, once they saw a couple fall, that bucket got bigger than hell, and all of a sudden they've got everybody throwing them in from everywhere, and that put Indiana down 14. But still, like, I love basketball because it's about the vibe, right? And as you watch this game, even when Maryland was up 14, 38-24, you thought, all right, you know what? They're going to cool off, and Indiana's going to bounce back, and they sure did, outscoring Maryland by 22 at one point. And then sadly, over the last minute and 10 or whatever, kind of fell apart. And Maryland was able to close it out with that 7-0 run.
Yeah, and this is a killer for me just because when the game was immediately over, my first thought was they played really well. They looked more engaged. I had a lot of hope. And then I look at the stat sheet, and you see only 6 turnovers, only 3 missed free throws, shot over 50% from the field, made 9 3-pointers. And you still lost.
Yeah, it's really hard to fathom. I think if they had played that level of basketball against anybody else they'd played this year, whether in a win or a loss, they absolutely would have won that game. You should be able to win in the Big Ten scoring 76 points. I thought over the last 30 minutes of the game, maybe 25 minutes of the game, they really kind of dominated and put themselves in a position where they could salt that thing away. They were up by 7 and 8 so many times in the last 5, 6, 7 minutes where they had the ball and an opportunity, and Devontae missed a couple of threes. I didn't think they were bad threes. I'm not criticizing him for taking the shots. A couple were beyond the arc. But you know what? They were in that position where one shot falls, and I think that they get this thing. It just didn't happen today. Basketball's a funny game.
Yeah, and if you look at Devontae's stat line, 22 minutes, 5 for 10 from the field, 2 for 6 from three-point range, 16 points, 1 personal foul, no turnovers, no blocks, no steals. But if he's going to be the sixth guy off the bench and he can play like this team's going to be a lot better. And the thing that really stuck out to me is when I watched him run without the ball today, he was actually sprinting all over the place to try to get open.
He was. And I thought that he looked, especially early on, that he gave them lift. And then, he missed a few shots, and that's the way it goes. But I think you're right. I mean, you can't blame guys for missing shots. You take the shots that are good shots, and there isn't one of them that he took where I would kind of rewind the tape and have him untake it. I feel good with him taking those shots, especially given his early success. The one guy who's kind of bugging me a little bit, and maybe he shouldn't, maybe I'm looking too hard at this, is I'm watching a guy like Justin Smith run in transition, getting back on defense or attacking offensively, and it just doesn't seem like there's a third gear to this guy. And I think that is the next step that he's got to take as Indiana figures out a way to win these types of games and the kind of game that they lost today.
Yeah, and I think we saw improvement for Deron Davis, and we saw his minutes go up with that also, up to 13. So Justin Smith played 36 minutes. I think if things continue to what they are, I think you're going to see Justin Smith's minutes slowly drop and Deron Davis's slowly come up.
And I think that might be good for both of them. I thought Deron played really well today. He was 2 of 2. He was really active. He had 3 assists, a couple of nice dimes to Trace Jackson Davis. But Justin, I mean, you look at the 36 minutes, he took 10 shots, made 3. He had 8 rebounds, which is terrific. 4 fouls, 6 points. There's more to him than that. I think on the defensive end, I get it. He's a guy who can do really good work defending multiple positions on the defensive end. And when you sit him down, things get a little screwy. Demezy Anderson is not the equal of Justin Smith on either end of the floor. So I get him playing 36, but I think that he's got to be more active and not rely on, tip-ins as his only offensive contribution. You need more out of Justin.
How about what this looked like to me was a bunch of guys that today played with purpose and confidence, except for Justin.
Yeah, that's about right. I thought that I thought that Indiana was the better team, even early when they fell behind by 14. I thought, you know what, Maryland's just making shots. That's what's happening. And they're not going to make every shot over the course of 40 minutes. 40 minutes is usually the right time for a college basketball game and the right time to figure out who's better on that given day. And I really thought that over the 40 minutes Indiana was today. But that's the way it goes. We've had some games like that, the UConn game maybe, where I didn't think Indiana was necessarily the better team, but Indiana got the win. I felt worse about Indiana after a couple of their wins than I do today after this loss.
Yeah, and I think if Indiana played UConn today, I think Indiana's the better team. So the thing that I really take away from this is over the Michigan State and Maryland game, they got a split, which is what I was hoping for at the beginning, because I thought what they would do is play out of their asses for one game and win, and in the other game they would look like they normally do and get hammered. They actually played well these 2 games, and I think that before we get a little bit too happy with what we saw the last 2 home games, I want to see this team perform at Penn State. And by perform at Penn State, I don't think Penn State's a top 15 team in the country. I think they should go to Penn State and win the game. If they play with the confidence level they did today, I know they're not probably going to shoot 50% again, But just to see that confidence level, to see them go on the road in a tough place to play, in a tough environment, and win the game, I think then maybe we've got something.
Yeah, I think if they can split the next two at Penn State and at Ohio State, that sets them up nicely for a little bit of a run where, they can get a little bit closer to 10 wins, which is what I think they need to be able to go to the NCAA tournament. And this team continues to arc in a positive direction. And while we're down about the result, I think that like you said, the effort, I thought the execution offensively, especially, I thought they were really competent in the half court in ways that they haven't been before. The only way I thought that they were going to win 2 weeks ago was getting to the foul line a bunch and scoring in transition. I thought that was the formula because they're not a good enough shooting team to be able to operate in the half court. But today, I thought they set better screens. I thought they cut better. I thought they hit guys on time and on target, and not all the shots went down, but a bunch did. And so I really do think that this is a step in a positive direction, even though they wind up picking up their fourth Big Ten loss of the season.
Yeah, I really think they need to win both of these games. I know that.
Do you?
Yeah, because I don't think treading water is good enough anymore. I think we've seen what this team's capable of at home. You got to be able. I mean, Ohio State's losing to everybody right now, whether they're home or away. And to me, beating Ohio State at Ohio State should be a given for this team. I know it's a road game, but the way Ohio State has played, I mean, they've been pretty bad. And they're towards the bottom of the Big Ten standings. Penn State, on the other hand, is a win you got to get to prove yourself to me, because they're a good team that's tough to beat at home. Ohio State's got talent, but I just think if you want to turn the season into something special, you need to win both of these games. Now, we get a split. Maybe we can half-ass our way and be playing in the first four in Dayton, but I think this team has proven over the last couple of games that they're better than that.
I think they got to learn how to win, and maybe today losing, they learned a little bit about how to win, because this team is still not as mentally tough as they need to be in order to, I guess, in the end, win a game like today's, where you've got to continue to grind, and it's got to be a possession-by-possession game, and you just can't throw them away. And I don't know how turnovers are tabulated, because if that Devontae Green lob isn't a turnover, I don't know what a turnover is. Maybe that goes as like somehow a missed shot. I don't know, but that wasn't counted as a turnover. That's kind of baffling to me.
See, I don't know too many teams that only turn the ball over 5 and 6 times in a complete game. So I'm thinking maybe the guy that was keeping the stats fell asleep for a while.
It might have been Old Man Green. They might have done it in the way they do at AAU games, and they got a parent keeping stats or something like that. And he just refuses to make the little hash when Devontae does something bad. I think that could be the answer.
All right, so now we have an answer. But yeah.
Old Man Green sitting there with a scorebook. Yeah. Hey, Old Man Green, I think that was a turnover against your kid. Oh, no. No. Devontae, he didn't turn it over. That's on the kid who didn't make the catch. I'm sorry.
Good answer. So they're going to Penn State. What's the key to beating Penn State at Penn State? I mean, I think it's pretty much what it always is, but is there anything else you can think of here?
No, I think they just need to – I'm not going to be result-based in my answer. I'm going to be more holistic about it. And really want them to just continue to develop and go to a place that's no fun to play, like Happy Valley, and compete really well against, Stevens and Watkins and Wheeler. This is an older team, and Pat Chambers has done a really nice job of putting them in a position to go to the NCAA tournament for the first time in a long time. They're 4-4 in the Big Ten, 14-5 overall. They play like all Pat Chambers teams do. They're good defensively. They try to take good care of the basketball and pressure a little bit defensively. And that's, they did that a little bit today. Maryland did, and that's usually not something that Indiana deals well with. But I thought that they really did today, and that they dealt with it well. When they play against a team that's confident in their ability to defend wings with pressure, Indiana just kind of has trouble moving the basketball and getting passes down onto the block, where then either Brunk or Trace Jackson Davis or Duran can score it or kick it out for an open look. And that's kind of what Penn State does. They pressure, but so did Maryland. And, it kind of didn't work out for Maryland. Maybe Indiana's just executing better and getting better every game. And hopefully, that arc continues and they play well this week. And then you've got a nice little you got a Purdue game that's going to be absolutely enormous for both Purdue and Indiana. There's no rest for the weary, right? I mean, it's fantastic. Like today's game was incredibly entertaining, and now the rest of their schedule is really, really tough, and they're going to have to figure out a way to beat good teams consistently. Or do they have the mental wherewithal to be able to do that? That's going to be kind of the question that we see them answer.
Yeah, because a month ago when we talked about this, we talked about the end of the season, Minnesota and Wisconsin maybe not being very tough games, and Illinois. And now Illinois is ranked in the top 25. They're beating pretty much everybody now. And Minnesota and Wisconsin are both playing well.
Boy, Illinois looks so good. Illinois looked terrific at Michigan. And, Brad Underwood's a hell of a coach. And really, you look at the Big Ten from top to bottom and tell me where, we've always kind of had in the Big Ten, we've had a couple of programs where you'd point to a guy and say, well, this is a guy we can beat. This coach, he can't get it done either schematically or in recruiting, and we're going to be fine. But you look at Steve Peichel at Rutgers, and you look at Chris Collins, and you look at, Penn State with Pat. And
Nebraska's the only one that stands out to me. And with Hoiberg, I don't think it's going to last very long like that.
No, he's going to get it right. I mean, they turned over their entire roster minus one guy, and they're still somehow competitive. So I think, top to bottom, this conference is unbelievable from a coaching standpoint, and Archie's going to have to figure it out. One thing that I like too with Trace is that last possession, that ball came to him. He was like, okay, I'm going to go win this damn game. He took the ball, backed the guy down, threw up what is normally a really, really good shot that he's going to make, and you take your chances with that. I like that. I was going to try to find a way to be critical of Archie down the stretch, but really the only thing that I'm critical of is, and I'm critical because of the result, not because of the act, but not calling the timeout when they had some trouble in transition and Jerome Hunter threw that pass away. The timeout would have been nicely utilized. I hate late timeouts, though, so I can't be critical of Archie for not calling it.
Yeah, me too. I never get critical for that just because Bob Knight said never do that.
Right. Well, and I think he's right. And what he always said is it's my job to get those guys prepared for that moment better than the defense is prepared for that moment. And he's right. Prepare your guys to handle that kind of press. But if you see them, crap their pants in the middle of it, call the timeout, because if you don't, they're going to turn it over. But I can't be critical because that's my philosophy of timeouts too.
All right, Kent, you want to do Thursday after the game Wednesday night? Because I got to cover the Xavier Marquette game Wednesday also. What
a lot of fun that's going to be. What a great game.
Well, it's the Big East. All games are great games.
Xavier trying to figure out a way to stop or at least mitigate Marcus Howard is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and right now they're having a hard time dealing in Creighton, it looks like. But who doesn't?
Yeah, no kidding. Nobody likes to play there.
No.
But Thursday sounds tremendous. Can't wait. Another Hoosier win.
All right, and we are 15-5. It's better than it was the last 2 years, and that's all you can ask is to get a little bit better every year.
Yeah, we got to get 5 more wins. Just 5 more. And then all things are possible, because we can't count on Indiana winning a game in the Big Ten tournament. I think we know that.
Well, the way this is this year, I don't know if you can count on anybody winning a big game or a game in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, because there's no real bad teams except maybe Nebraska. There's no real great teams, but everybody else is pretty good.
Yeah, and if you wind up being the team that has to play Nebraska and you're on the bubble in that, what is that, the 11-14 game, and you lose, you're out ski. And that could happen, because at that point Nebraska might be a competent basketball team.
Yeah, I don't think they're not competent. I just don't think they have enough guys that can put the ball in the basket right now.
And they haven't gelled. I mean, you got all those new guys, and so I did. This is kind of interesting. I went to a high school game on Friday night, and I met the father of Nathan Childress. He came up and introduced himself, and he listens to the podcast and whatnot. And he was talking about how much those kids really buy into Archie, how they love Archie, and they love each other. And he gave some specific examples that made me feel real good about where this team is.
Actually, I kind of got that idea watching the game today. That's why I was actually feeling good about it when it was right over. Just the other thing was when Devontae wasn't in the game, he seemed engaged on the sideline with his teammates, where it didn't necessarily seem that way a few weeks ago. Now, we may be reading Ray too much. He may have just been disappointed in himself and not being in the game. But once again, when I watched him, and it wasn't just Devontae, when I watched guys run off screens or run all the way around, baseline to baseline, they looked like they were doing it with a purpose today. And everybody's still got to remember this is still a relatively young team. And the stuff like that happens at the end of the games with young teams.
Yeah, and I saw Devontae come off the floor after being taken out. And sometimes he can come off and have his head down and feel like that's some kind of repudiation of his gifts. And he just kind of goes and sits down. But this time he was very engaged, kind of slapping hands, high-fiving guys, and still even bouncing back, sort of a hop in his step. And it did. It seemed like that everybody, except for Justin Smith, who I have a tough time reading, was really plugged in that way today. And again, another reason why that loss disappointing, yet bringing hope, and yet at the same time, not deserved. I don't think.
Yeah, I still think when we look at this, Kent, there can be no doubt that we're going to the Final Four.
If Loyola could do it 2 years ago, we don't have a Sister Jean, but maybe they could exhume Herman B. Wells and prop him up on the baseline somehow. And or we don't have a mascot. Maybe we got a guy in a big Herman B. Wells outfit who can kind of run across the baseline and get the fans engaged, and we can win it for Herman. We can go to the Final Four for Herman.
Okay.
Well, it's an idea. There are no bad ideas, only bad execution.
Okay. Actually, I have heard bad ideas before.
That might be a terrible
Now, our Herman B. Wells costume, I don't know. That could be. I'm not judging what you said. I'm not cutting you down, but I'm thinking maybe it could be just a little bit of a bad idea.
Herman's Hoosiers. There you go. It's an alliteration. People love alliterations.
Hoosiers may be an even worse idea, Ken. Herman's Hoosiers?
They could rappel from the ceiling like Boomer at Pacers games. It'd be tremendous.
Huh. How about this? Did you know that Herman B. Wells does not have a period because the letter B in his middle name is not an abbreviation. His middle name is simply B.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's interesting. He was an exceptionally nice man.
Now, he was also the first person to have the title of chancellor at IU.
He and what a chancellor he was. He really is kind of the father of Indiana University. With Herman B. Wells as president and then chancellor, it grew into what it's become. And prior to that, not even close.
Well, how about this? He was a major supporter of academics, of course. He supported the faculty's academic efforts, and under his presidency, the Institute for Sexual Research, known as the Kinsey Institute, was established.
Well, if any subject required a great deal of study, I think it's sex. We got to figure it out.
You never figured that out, by the way. Especially if you've been married for more than 20 years. You can't figure it out.
I still haven't, although my son would suggest that his existence would suggest that I did figure it out at least once.
You figured out the ending at least. All right. Tell everybody where they can find your book, Oops, and where they can find you on the internet.
You can go to Amazon.com and search Kent Sterling, and up will pop Oops. There are a number of books that have been written with that title. The cover, yellow and red, so it's easy to find. And you can get the audiobook, the ebook, the hardcover. And then tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock on Facebook Live and on Periscope Live, you got Breakfast with Ken. The show's so nice, we do it twice.
Yeah, I'd watch it if you didn't do it so damn early, Kent.
It is early. But you know what? The early bird catches the worm, and I'm outside 30 degrees yelling about sports. The neighbors, they love me.
I'm sure they do. All right, guys, we'll be back Thursday to recount the next Indiana episode in this titanic struggle of a season when they battle the Penn State Nittany Lions Wednesday. We'll be back to talk about it Thursday. Make sure you check us out then. But for now, I'm Mike Goodpaster. He's Ken Sterling. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.